All right. So, good evening, everyone. So, this is our assigned topic entitled Language in Education Policies Through the Years. So, this topic is basically a history of every policies that was being implemented, no? Influenced, of course, by some colonizers in our country and some periods of time. So, these are the objectives. At the end of the lesson, no, you should able to familiarize yourself with the Philippine language policies through the years and compare and contrast the language policies of the country in terms of their enactment schools and issues associated to the policies. So in every period of time, or every colonizers, there are some sort of unique process, of making policies in terms of language policies or school policies. Okay. So right here we have at least five periods of time that implemented the language policies in our country. So we have the Spanish occupation, American occupation, the Japanese occupation, the Commonwealth era period, and the K-12 program, no, the present. Okay, so in Spanish occupation, so Spanish colonization in the Philippines spanning from the 16th century to 1898, so almost 300 years now that the Spanish colonized here in our country, profoundly impacted the country's linguistic landscape. So this period witnessed the implementation of various language policies aimed at promoting Spanish as the dominant language, leaving a lasting legacy on Filipino languages. So here are the policies that was being implemented by the Spanish country, by the Spaniards. So in the year 1550, under Carlos the First, mandated the teaching of Castilian, the Spanish, that is the Spanish language in Spanish colonies, including the Philippines. So there are a lot of countries that was being colonized by the Spanish, not just Philippines. So there are a lot of countries. So in 1596, King Felipe II instructed friars to teach Spanish to natives rather than focusing solely on indigenous languages. So during that time, no, in the year 1596, friars friars served as teachers, no, in teaching the Spanish language to the Philippines. So subsequent decrees in the year 603 and 634 emphasized Spanish education with Felipe the Fourth, no, 1634 decree mandating Spanish instruction for all natives. Okay, so in Carlos II, 1686, decree enforced earlier mandates for Spanish language acquisition, including the punishments for non-compliance. So the 1863 Education Act solidified Spanish as the sole of medium instruction, requiring it for the government position. So there is some sort of punishments now for the person who did not really take efforts to learn the Spanish language during that time. Okay, so here are the several factors in the Spanish full implementations. We have the prior influence. Well, the friars who played a significant role in mission activities. The village life often resisted the spread of Spanish. So there are few friars who did not really accept the Spanish language. So of course, we have limited resources during that time. We all know that they are not really advanced, spreading or advertising the language. So and the last is we have the Filipino attitude. So the acceptance of the Spanish varied among Filipinos. While some embraced it as a means of advancements, others resisted its imposition. So here are the linguistic legacy of the Spanish occupation. First, we have the vocabulary. Thousands of Spanish loan words are integrated into Filipino languages, enriching their vocabulary. These words cover various domains, including food, clothing, architecture, and um, government. So yeah, so it is pretty obvious, no, that some terms, no, up until now we are still using it. Let's say for example the word Chanelas. Chanelas is not an innate language, no. It's not a native language. No, we don't. Filipino people don't compose that language, but rather we simply copy it or adapt it from the Spanish language up until now. Okay. And the next is we have the orthography. Spanish orthography influenced the writing systems of many Filipino languages. introducing the Roman alphabet and standardizing the spelling conventions. So, Spanish country was the first country who introduced the Roman alphabet here in our country. So, before Spanish, um, we have also the native alphabets, no, such as Alibata and Baybayin. Okay, so for the Creole languages, no, of course, no, the Spanish language gave rise to Creole languages such as Chavacano, spoken in Zamboanga and Cavite. Chavacano, a Spanish-based Creole, is spoken by the several thousands which is in Zamboanga. So we all know that the Chavacano language is most likely known as the broken Spanish. Uh, yeah, as a broken Spanish. They're often called as a broken Spanish, no? From Creole to naging Pidgin. So, and the last we have the cultural influence. No? So Spanish language are used of fostered the emergence of the educated elite. So the illustrators who played a key role in the Philippine Revolution. So Spanish literature, art, music also influenced the Filipino culture. So that is for the Spanish uh, part. Okay, so let's proceed to the American occupation. So the American occupation of the Philippines from 1896 to 1946 saw a dramatic shift in language policy, with English being promoted as the primary language of education and governance. So this was, let's say, aimed to supplant the Spanish and establish English as the language of modernization and progress. Okay, so these are the language policies during the American occupation. So we have the American government, no, established a comprehensive public education system using English as a sole medium of instruction, aiming to unify the diverse Filipino population and promote American culture values. And we have also the term here, Thomasites. The American teacher soldiers were crucial to this effort. So Thomasites, by the way, that is, they are the soldiers of the American who volunteered to be to serve as a teacher, no, of the English language to the Filipinos. So the next one is emphasis on English suppressed local languages viewed as inferior and hindering modernization, leading to the decline of formal settings and a shift to a monolingual English system. So yeah, local languages. So we all know that this is inferior during modernization. We all know that the English language during that time is the inferior language because they are more advanced compared to the native language in the Philippines. Okay, so another policies, no, efforts to establish a national language based on Tagalog began in the late colonial period. So the National Language Institute that was founded in 1937, and the Tagalog was officially declared the national language in 1939 as a recognition continuing during the Spanish Japanese occupation. So the National Language Institute, no, was was founded in year 1937. So during that time also, that is the time also of the Commonwealth era. So later on we will know why Tagalog is not the national language anymore, the Philippine national language. Okay, so here are the linguistic legacy, no, of the American language. So the American occupation had a lasting impact on the Philippines, of course. Now, well, of course, in terms of education, government, media, and business, we all know that they are very kumbaga, popular in those areas. No? The government, the education, media, and business. So the Philippines emerges as a bilingual nation. So when you say bilingual, that is two nation, or I would say two um kumbaga, they practice two kinds of language. So the first is the English and the Filipino, based on Tagalog, serving as official languages. So while English proficiency is highly valued for economic and social mobility, the suppression of the local language during the American period has led to a loss of cultural diversity and language. endangerment. So of course, if we do not practice, we don't practice the if we don't practice uh, the certain language, no, there is a possibility that later on, no, later on on the following years, it will be forgotten, or it will be loss of loss of cultural diversity and language endangerment. Yeah. Okay. So let's proceed to the Japanese occupation. So this is during World War II, obviously. So the Japanese occupation of the Philippines in 1942 to 1945 brought a shift in language policy aiming to promote Japanese language and culture while suppressing English, and to a lesser extent the Spanish. However, the impact was less comprehensive and lasting compared to the American period. So why was it less comprehensive and not long lasting compared to the American period? Because they only um they only live in Philippines 3 years. They only live 3 years in Philippines, so it was very short time to advertise, to globalize their language. Okay, so there's nothing much policies that they implemented in our country. So the Japanese occupation promoted Japanese language learning primarily for practical communication, establishing limited school classes and disseminating propaganda. However, existing language barriers and Filipino resistance limits its effectiveness. So the Japanese occupation suppressed the English primary language under American rule and discouraged Spanish, viewing it as a symbol of former colonial power. So no, there is no kumbaga there is no policies that they implemented during that time. So here are the linguistic legacy. The Japanese occupation impact on Philippine linguistic landscape was less enduring than the American period. So this is more like a comparison. It's not really a legacy. While the Japanese language gained some traction, its use declined rapidly after the end of the occupation. So the suppression of English and Spanish was temporary, with both languages regaining their permanence after liberation. So during war, of course, English and Spanish was not really used because the Japanese uh, force, or well, the Japanese system, is was being implemented, was being used, in our country, of course, So yeah, so that'll be all for the Japanese period. So let's proceed to the Commonwealth era. Okay, so the 1935 Constitution mandated the creation of a national language, leading to the establishment of the National Language Institute, now the Commission Wika ng Filipino, through Commonwealth Act number 184. So the institute rather was tasked with studying Philippine dialects to select a basis for the national language. So the question is, what is their kumbaga basis? What are their basis, or what are their basis in choosing the national language for the Philippines during the time? Okay, so their basis is, or are, the if that language is popular. No, I mean, if that language is really spoken, the number of speakers of that language are kumbaga are many, no, and of course, another thing is, one of the bases is that the that language could have a potential to improve. Kumbaga, it is more likely more advanced compared to the other languages. Okay, so those are the bases. So in 1937, Tagalog was declared the basis for this language. So Tagalog language has those kumbaga qualities. So which part mixed reactions? So there are mixed reactions. So some people, some Filipino people really accepted that Tagalog will be the national language in the Philippines. Some of the Philippines are mildly accept. They are neutral, and some of the Filipinos did not really accept that Tagalog will be the national language in the Philippines. So because they often think, during that time, they think that if Tagalog was the language, the chosen national language, they think that um their language, their native language, will be marginalized. No? And that is, I think it would be, that is, kumbaga, um, that is really going to happen if the Tagalog language will be, continued to be the national language. So despite the controversy, the national language officially named Filipino was proclaimed in 1939, marking a significant step towards linguistic independence and reducing the dominance of the English education. Okay, so the legacy of the Commonwealth era is establishing Filipino as the national language aimed to unite the diverse Filipino people. And the Commonwealth period recognized the importance of all regional languages, despite choosing Tagalog as the basis for the Filipinos. So there is some sort of equality during that time. It was seen, or kumbaga, it was being revealed, that all languages are equal. All languages are how has the potential to improve. And the Commonwealth era saw a shift away from the English dominance, paving a way of bilingual education after post-independence period. So, bilingual education, of this term will be explained later on. Okay, so here is the last. Now we have the K to 12, the K to 12 program. So the K to 12 program implemented in the Philippines starting in 2012 brought a significant changes to language policies and its linguistic legacy. So we have the MTBMLE, or what we call the mother tongue based multilingual education. So the K-12 program mandated the use of learners' mother tongue as a medium of instruction from kindergarten to grade 3. So this aimed to improve literacy rates by building a strong foundation in the language children are the most familiar with. So the K-12 program, um, yeah. So the K-12 program proposed MTBLE as kumbaga, the from grade 1 to grade 3, the medium of instruction, inside the classroom would be the learner's mother tongue. Kumbaga, their innate language that was being used at home. Okay, so so this aim to improve literacy rates and building a strong foundation. So this is also to preserve the purpose of this integral to preserve, or in order for them to master their innate language before learning a new one. Okay. So increased literacy. Initial studies indicated that MTBLE has contributed to higher literacy rates, especially in early grades. So of course, its legacy is for cultural preservation. So language reflects culture. So if we are going to, kumbaga, if we're going to practice our own language, so it means that we practice to preserve our own culture. Okay, so here is the bilingual education. So bilingual, from the word bilingual, it means two, no, two languages that was being used inside the classroom. So Filipino and English. So these are the Filipino and English are introduced as the languages of instruction after grade 3. So after grade 3, Filipino English was introduced to students. So continuing throughout the K to 12 curriculum, this aims to equip students with skills needed for global competitiveness. So we all know that English is our national language. I don't know. I mean, our universal language. So in order for our students now here in the Philippines to be global competitive, um, they should, no, students should master the English language. Okay, so we have here the legacy. So K-12 education has solidified the Philippines bilingual education, so Filipino and English, aiming to boost students' global competitiveness through the English proficiency. So if you are proficient in English, you can really compete. Okay. All right. So here are the legacy of K-12: shifting language landscape, enhanced linguistic diversity, and ongoing evolution. So yeah, up until now, no, the K-12 program is kumbaga accepting improvements. They are accepting for um accepting for a change, no, for the betterment, no, in terms of quality education. So I think that will be all for my part this evening. So the next kumbaga let's hear from Arnold, Mr. Arnold, for more insights. Okay. Bye.